What's good, y'all? I'm Skip, one half of the supergroup Deciphered, and tonight we are going to get into a reaction of a video produced by another YouTube creator by the name of Jalopy Bungus. Excuse me. Shout out to him. If you're not new to the channel, you know that we have a very complicated relationship with J. Cole. And I've been referred this video by a lot of people that watch our channel, and they say a lot of our viewpoints align as far as Jalopy and us in reference to J. Cole. So I'm about to check this out. The title of the video is Drake Isn't the Only Master Manipulator, Part 1. So definitely shout out to Jalopy for the video. I've been seeing a lot of his stuff go viral on social media, whether it be Instagram or TikTok. And I've been watching his videos lately, so this is one that I have a personal connection to as far as my opinion and my love-hate relationship with J. Cole. So I feel like this would be a perfect one to react to. And once again, shout out to him. If you haven't watched his content previously, go check it out. Be sure to subscribe. But if you're new to this channel, also be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you want additional content, become a decoder. Join the YouTube members or hit the link and become a Patreon subscriber. But no further ado, let's get to it.
This video is about to get very surgical, so stay with me.
Hold on.
Drake not the only master manipulator out here, y'all. I said it. I repeat. Drake is not the only master manipulator out here, y'all. And I'm not gonna lie, there are some people who might even be more well-versed in their manipulation.
Okay, real quick. After the release of Port Antonio, I did this long diatribe on Instagram in the stories. And I was saying that I think J. Cole is an evil, maniacal genius. And in that, I think he had this great ideal of starting this beef up and then getting them to take each other out. And then he come in as the reluctant king and take everything over. I don't know how that has progressed or how that worked out for him, because a lot of the dissension is about him being weird. And all of that other shit. So, yeah, I think this has been a wild turn of events for J. Cole. But I do agree with the central premise that J. Cole had ulterior motives. Let's keep going.
Okay. Well, what we just found out in that Drake and Kendrick Lamar lawsuit that's happening and going on, there's a specific verse in some specific lines in Port Antonio that exposed J. Cole and his true intentions this whole time. I told you I was about to get very surgical, so before you get upset, hear my argument. If you disagree, you disagree. If you agree, you agree.
Watch to the end for a discount code to Restream's upload and stream. Being a content creator.
But one thing we can't ignore is pattern recognition. Okay? Now, today is the anniversary of...
And not to cut him off, but I did a live earlier this evening And the big thing that they were saying in the live is like, it's a pattern, it's a pattern, it's a pattern, it's a pattern. You can't ignore the fact that it's a pattern, Skip, because this evening, and I might make the video, I might not, or I might just re-release what I did in the live stream as a shorter piece of content, where I was saying that we should kind of give J. Cole some grace, just leaning into the humanity aspect of it. But I'm about to watch this, and maybe Jalopy gonna change my mind. Let's go.
A 7-minute drill. Now, today is the anniversary of 7-minute drill.
Facts.
And I thought it was the perfect time to dissect the history of all the shit that's been going on. The song I'm talking about is Port Antonio, and the second verse is what we're going to highlight. Okay? But before we get to that, we have to recognize the actions of somebody before we talk about the intention of somebody. Okay? Because pattern recognition will show you what somebody's intentions are. All right? We got to talk about first-person shooter first. I believe that this was an attempt to rewrite the history of the Big Three. A Big Three that Kendrick has never acknowledged, and a Big Three that Drake only acknowledged in an interview with Elliott Wilson.
Facts. Facts. I definitely agree with that. I think this was a figment of J. Cole's creative imagination to put him on par with these guys. And once it was beneficial for Drake to create a strategic alliance, he allowed it. And I said this on the beef and review video we did last year after the beef was over. After Not Like Us was released, rather.
Most of the Big Three propaganda has come from who? Okay. This isn't just about the lyrics, and that's what people don't understand. A lot of people think that it's all about the lyrics. No, it's also about the optics. Because the lyrics can hide true intention, the optics cannot. With the lyrics, you can sway things and be passive aggressive and do things in a backhanded way. With the optics, you kind of showing us what your true intention is.
Okay. This is interesting. Let me run this back just about 15 seconds so I can really see what he's saying, because this is a part of, I'm thinking, what's going to build his entire argument. Pardon me, y'all.
A lot of people think that it's all about the lyrics. No, it's also about the optics. Because the lyrics can hide true intention, the optics cannot. With the lyrics, you can sway things and be passive aggressive and do things in a backhanded way. With the optics, you kind of showing us what your true intention is. Now, a first-person shooter, the reason I know this is because if you look at the lyrics, you can tell. Now that we know the type of guy Drake is, he's constantly in a state of attempting to manipulate, an attempt to rewrite history. Which I'm not surprised if you understand his anyway.
Is that, boy? That's a crazy shot. That's a crazy shot. Crazy. If you know, you know.
You can tell by the lyrics in this song, this is what they were attempting to do. And the timing of the song. This song comes out after Kendrick Lamar drops Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. An album that wasn't supposed to be commercial. And people judged the album as if it was supposed to be commercial. And a lot of people who didn't understand the album were trying to write off Kendrick Lamar during that time. You see what I'm saying? There were a lot of narratives around this album, especially when the first week numbers came out. Okay? A lot of people were trying to make the attempt to say that Kendrick Lamar fell off. That Kendrick Lamar, boom, boom, which was cool because the album has to age first, and it did. But that's when these guys decide to drop this song. Right? So now, you got Drake and J. Cole, two members of the Big Three.
This is Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises, built to meet any brief.
Going back and forth, talking about how they're the ones leading this new generation. Drake has this song that the bars about, I love talking to women and over dinner and they arguing about who to go. And I say, yeah, who to go, insinuating that these women are talking about him being the GOAT. But then in the same stanza, he says that it's just you and Cole. So
and that was that was the tell-all to me that this was some like, okay, we can acknowledge the fact that it's a big three, but we in a part of the room that Kendrick isn't. Like, we at the cool kid table. Like, Kendrick in the big three, we got to acknowledge him. And that might be charitable of us because we think we the best by a long shot now, that it would appear, and you can frame it as Kendrick is, quote unquote, losing steam because of the polarizing reception of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and the fact that after a 5-year layoff, it did almost 300,000 sales, including a bunch of physical copies. But like, when you go and look at it, being the fact, to Jalopy's point, it wasn't meant to be commercial. He didn't present it as if it was commercial, and the content is definitely not commercial. That's still a huge accomplishment for this project. And now people are looking at this album as one of the most important albums of the 2020s. But they looking at it from a very slanted point of view, and they thought they was gonna run away with some shit. And that's why First Person Shooter feels the way it feels tonally. And it's all of this Spider-Man meme. It's me looking at Drake shit, and it's just you and Cole. They thought Cuz had fell off for real. And they was finna run with it for the rest of the, for this next leg of their careers.
He's telling you that these women are telling him that the only two GOATs, or the only two people in this conversation, is him and J. Cole. Who are they leaving out? Kendrick Lamar.
I remember you was conflicted.
Okay. Why would Drake do this? Because J. Cole is less of a threat to the image of Drake than Kendrick Lamar is.
I said this too. In one of them videos, I was like, Drake saw J. Cole as, even if he was opposition, he's friendly opposition. Like, they'll battle for the top spot, but it won't be confrontational. So knowing that Kendrick is more aligned to attempt to take that from him, that being that top spot, and him possibly seeing Kendrick as more of a threat, if he can team up with Cole and push the narrative that Kendrick is insignificant, he don't even have to go against him. And then he know him and Cole will never go at it, so Cole can continue to push for that spot that he'll never get because Drake already feel like he the one. And then Cole will find gratification in getting to number 2 because his ultimate goal is getting from number 3 and then making a play for number 1, possibly with the fall off at this point in time. So yeah, yep.
That's what the master manipulation comes in. Now what J. Cole does, and this is where his master manipulation comes in, is him pretending to be naive. That's where J. Cole's master manipulation comes in. He pretends to be naive and easily manipulated so that he can push an agenda without getting the criticism.
Talk to him.
He's fully aware of what Drake is trying to do. He pretends he's not. Okay? And you notice because J. Cole also had lines where he says, the Spider-Man meme is me looking at Drake. Okay? Now, a lot of people say, well, Kendrick Lamar was supposed to be on the song, so J. Cole wrote his verse. No. If J. Cole had wrote his verse before he found out Kendrick Lamar, when he thought Kendrick Lamar was going to be on the song, why is he saying the Spider-Man meme is only him and Drake? What happened to Kendrick?
And the Spider-Man meme is only 2 people. So that line would have been disrespectful, even more disrespectful, if Kendrick is on the song and you already wrote that verse excluding him in the Spider-Man meme comparison. It went no way to get around that. So the best thing to say, or the best assumption to make, is that this is one of those lines that was created in opposition of Kendrick trying to push him out of that big three or push him to a point of where it doesn't matter after the quote unquote decline of being on the song.
Oh. Anyway, he also goes on to say that, you know, is K Dot, is it Aubrey and me? We the big three like a start of the league, but right now I feel like Muhammad Ali. Once again, stamping his place in the big three. Okay? The big three was a facade. That was something that J. Cole continued to amplify after a certain fan base created this idea. You see what I'm saying? And we recognize this, of course, but in the history of the big three, if you was really there, we all know there was a lot of different people that could have been in that conversation, okay? And then we move on to the tour. And Drake and J. Cole make it a point.
Now, before he says what he says, this was the part of it all that really started to trigger me as quote unquote a Kendrick fan. I was like, bruh, like how more obvious can they be that they're forming a strategic alliance to try to box him out? They're trying to box him out. Like they would get on stage and say certain shit as if Kendrick like didn't matter, or like shoot at him for taking extended breaks in between Damn and Mr. Morale. And a lot of people try to be like, it take him 5 years to make every album, which was always crazy to me. Like the longest distance was like 2 years and some change between any album from Section 80 all the way to Damn. And then even after Mr. Morale was 2022, Gen X was 2024. The only album he took an extended break more than 2 years from was Damn and Mr. Morale. They figured, I'm assuming, they figured he was going to do another long break after Mr. Morale, and basically they was going to have a 8-year runway with an album in the middle from Kendrick to run hip-hop. And that's what they were celebrating in this moment, because they were going to go on a campaign to make it seem like he fell off in his absence.
To continue to not acknowledge each other as people who are moving the generation without mentioning Kendrick Lamar. Drake constantly saying, you probably the only person I see as an equal. Who do you think that's a shot at? You can't ignore this no more when we see everything that Drake is doing today. He knows what he's doing. Every move is an attempt to rewrite history. And that's what people do of his lineage. Anyway.
Ooh, talk to him.
So then, Kendrick Lamar says, oh, y'all want to play games?
Nah, I can't stop that. I mean, I got to stop. I can't let it go by. That's real world application in this very moment. Real world application in this very moment. A lot of people trying to rewrite history. Let's go.
Games, boom, drops like that. Doesn't really say much to J. Cole at all. Besides, F the big three, it's just Big Me. The person he really went at was Drake. So why was J. Cole the first one to jump out the window? Interesting. Let's look at 7 Minute Drill. Now, remember when I said they were attempting to rewrite history based on the current circumstances of what went on? They really thought that Kendrick Lamar had fell off and all this different stuff? No, that can't be true, Jalopy. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, well, how come in this song he says this? He's still doing shows but fell off like The Simpsons. Doesn't that validate my theory?
I agree with you, Jalopy. That's exactly what I was saying before you got into this part. They were celebrating his fall off. They really thought he was out of here. They thought the initial reception of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was going to lead to the decline in Kendrick Lamar, because they thought that was going to make an extended absence look like he was running away. Why they celebrated prematurely.
In his research, Dr. Morrison identified a paradox.
Your first shit was classic. Your last shit was tragic. Another validation of my theory. Your second put people to sleep, but they gassed it. But didn't you say wasn't you one of the main people claiming that this was a great album, which is why he went on to apologize, by the way, because he didn't believe this, but he felt like he had to say it. And I think a lot of people think he felt like he had to say it because of the battle. I think he was trying to diminish Kendrick Lamar's legacy.
I got a theory on this, and I want to make a video about it. I've already started working on it, about why possibly he feels a way, even if not enough to where he means it overtly. I think internally that album, To Pimp a Butterfly, fucks with J. Cole on a deeper level. And it's, I want to talk about that on another video. And I think that's why he took that particular shot at To Pimp a Butterfly in this. And on top of that, I think the conversations that he had with Drake, because you could tell that there's a lot of overlap in the attacks that both Drake and J. Cole had at Kendrick. So it just tells me they was talking behind the scenes about him.
You go on, right? Which, honestly, is not that big of a deal. It's just a battle. But I'm making these points to let you know that this is clearly what they were doing, dating back to first-person shooter, okay? I was trailing right behind, and I just now hit mine. Now, in front of the line with a comfortable lead. This is how you paint the narrative. What insinuated that you were at the front of the line, and what in any way or fashion? How ironic, as soon as I got it, now he wants something with me. So because Kendrick Lamar hadn't dropped nothing, because you also believe that Kendrick Lamar fell off. Okay? Facts. Then you try to disbrand the Grammys because Kendrick Lamar has more Grammys than all of y'all. Okay? Combined, but then you really don't hate the Grammys because you submitted Might Delete Later, the very album that this song was on, to the Grammys.
One of my homeboys always say, hey, man, niggas got a problem with the Grammys until they win one. They hate the Grammys when they don't win, and when they win, it's a big honor.
It's getting surgical as hell in this motherfucker, bro. Okay? Then, he averaging one hard verse like every 30 months or something. If he wasn't dissing them, we wouldn't be discussing them. Aren't you constantly begging somebody to come at you?
I said this in the live stream tonight. J. Cole, and I wonder if he's going to talk about this later. J. Cole he invited this energy for years. That 5-year feature run he went on invited this combative energy. And to Jalopy's point, it's also very interesting that J. Cole doesn't see that he doing the same shit with this feature run. It's very interesting. It's a word that I got in my mind, and we'll discuss it later. But yeah, it's a word in my mind related to J. Cole, and I want to discuss it, especially when he bring up Port Antonio.
Okay. Now, I think J. Cole is jealous of Kendrick Lamar. I think he's been jealous of Kendrick Lamar. Initially, I thought that it was just on, like, the competitive jealous, where it's like, he's just competitively jealous of Kendrick Lamar. Okay? I'm fine with that. As long as you competing outright. That's the nature of competing with somebody. But I can validate this by using the bars he had at Heaven's EP when he says, some people say that I'm running third, they threw the bronze at me. Behind Drake and Dot, them is superstars to me. Maybe deep down I'm afraid of my luminosity, so when you see me on red carpets, I'm moving awkwardly. I appreciate the vulnerability, but there's not enough accountability. That's been my theme with J. Cole.
He beat me to it. That was the word. Accountability. That is the biggest issue I have with J. Cole in this era of his career. This nigga's not accountable for nothing. When he get to Port Antonio, I'm sure he'll get into it, but I want I don't want to step on his video too much, but accountability is huge, especially in this era. That's the whole thing Kendrick is on, accountability. And the one thing that I see from J. Cole in this whole ordeal is the lack of accountability. The lack of accountability. And it's upsetting. Let's keep going on.
There's always vulnerability, not enough accountability. All right? Now, we just talked about how first-person shooter was an attempt to rewrite history for the turning generation, because you got to remember, this is at the top of the 2020s. A new generation is about to listen to hip-hop. If you set the narrative at the top of the decade, you can land the narrative for the rest of the decade. And that's what they were attempting to do. You know this because he then validates these claims in 7-minute drill. All right? But then he goes on to apologize. All right? And I believe he apologized not because he's seen where it was about to go, but because the reception of the song was not good. Most people were not liking the song. Like That was still miles ahead of this song. And he knew if Kendrick Lamar, if you drop a diss track in response and you didn't even touch the verse that was the first shot, even though first-person shooter was the first shot.
Listen, if you've been in a car accident, don't call an attorney. Use this AI app instead. That's what I did, and that's...
Okay. I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing with everything he's saying. Yeah, because first-person shooter was the first shot. I think Red Button, and I've always said this, and I will forever stand on this, Red Button was the second shot. Drake was shooting at Kendrick Lamar more personally, particularly in those first 4 bars. If you go back and listen to it, it lines up with Kendrick Lamar's separation at the time from TDE and how no information was given, which leads somebody like Drake to assume that something bad was happening, i.e. Family Matters and Hard Part 6. It's just crazy how stuff started to line up after a while when you see the consistencies and patterns. Like Jalopy was saying, let's keep going.
You got to take this song down. You got to get in front of it before you get punched in the mouth for real.
Okay, and also to this point, and I'm gonna let it play. But yeah, that's what I was saying too. When the video, not the video. When the song 7-minute drill dropped, the huge sentiment was like, it's cool, but it's not enough. And if J. Cole was positioning that as that's close to the limits of how far he can go, it makes sense that he ran and took this tail, because if that's what you thought was going to hit, if that was what your haymaker was, and people like, nah, this ain't enough, it makes 100% sense why you backed out before he had a chance to respond, because you didn't want to get killed. You didn't want to get killed. So you gaslit your fans thinking it was some noble act, but really it was you saving yourself.
Because now people are going to be looking at you extra crazy. That's why I think he apologized. I don't think he apologized for the reasons y'all think he did. I think he used the idea of the image that he created for J. Cole fans to hide behind the fact that he was terrified of what Kendrick Lamar was about to do to him. Don't worry, though. I'll validate that claim soon. As a matter of fact, no, J. Cole will validate that claim soon. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. We just found out in the lawsuit with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right, that bots were not involved in Not Like Us for Kendrick Lamar. They were not involved. UMG sent letters to Drake's lawyer. They exchanged letters, and it's been proven that Kendrick Lamar is not being botted or anything of the nature. Okay? So now Drake's lawsuit is being diminished to just defamation. Okay? So all these bot allegations and all that shit that they've been doing for months and months and months to invalidate Kendrick Lamar have been proven false, but that isn't going to be reported by people because OVO is paying propaganda. Okay? I can break that down. I can break that down too, but that's not for this video. Notice how I had to go to a January 15th article to even pull this up in the first place. All right. Now I want y'all to remember when the announcement of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl came out. This was in September. Okay. September is when they announced Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl. A lot of rappers were upset, and they showed this by either not saying something or saying something. All right. You had sneak comments by all types of people saying Kendrick Lamar isn't going to be able to do the Super Bowl because of A, B, and C, and D. And that was the main narrative. But that's when the bot allegations got strong too. Right around the time that the Super Bowl was announced was when the very strong hit pieces came out against Kendrick Lamar in hopes to diminish his run to the Super Bowl or get him off of the Super Bowl. You know, that was Drake's goal with the lawsuit, right?
Yep. Hate him out. If you can hate him out, you can convince the fan base not to fuck with it. And hopefully that will diminish his success in the long run. Because then you could be like, okay, so it was just a song. And he ain't really who y'all thought he was, because look at the decreased viewership at the Super Bowl. Like, this don't even hit the average. But instead, it ended up hitting the highest viewed one in history, surpassing Michael Jackson. So it's almost like all of that hating just turned into free promotion. And as strong as they went with the Biden shit, for it to come out that the Biden allegations can't be vetted or verified, and UMG sent documentation to Drake's legal team, and then they withdrew the allegations from the lawsuit. Can't fake influence. They tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. You can't fake influence. It's just making Kendrick look stronger. The more they try to find chinks, when they come back as invalid, it just make him look stronger, and that increases the numbers because now people fuck with him. It's like, damn, like you got to go through all of this and nothing is working. The truth don't lie.
Now to make sure not like us not perform the Super Bowl, okay? Now I say that because you got to remember the timeline. The height of these bot allegations were never higher than they were at this time on social media and on them talking about his songs, right? Because you got to remember, a lot of people were trying to say that, or Drake's camp or whatever were trying to say that Kendrick Lamar's camp was sending bots to all Drake tweets, was sending bots to anything involving Drake, okay? Which is what they do, is what they're really doing, they accuse the enemy of doing, so that knowing that Kendrick Lamar isn't going to refute these allegations. That brings me to Port Antonio. When did Port Antonio come out? October 9th.
I knew he was finna get to this. It's a perfect segue because who discussed the bots? Who discussed the bots on wax? None other than Jermaine Cole. And I got a reaction to Port Antonio on the channel. If you want to, check it out. If not, it's cool. But where I was saying that, in that second verse, if you put the second verse next to the third verse and you take into consideration what he said in the second, on top of how much respect he paid to Cole, how much respect he paid to Drake, that tells me at that specific point in time, all of the allegations are being attached to Kendrick Lamar, including the bot allegations and the social media narrative crafting. He threw all that at the feet of Kendrick Lamar and then went and groveled at the feet of Drake. Let's go. For the record, Jalopy, we got to talk, bro. But prior to that, this shit is going to make me give up my giving grace to J. Cole argument.
Weeks after the Super Bowl announcement. No congratulations from J. Cole, the guy who thinks Kendrick Lamar is such an incredible artist and other generation, all this different stuff. No. But this instead. Okay? Now, you don't owe anybody congratulations. But when you feed into narratives in order to diminish what somebody's doing, we see what you're doing, all right? Let's go straight to the second verse, okay? They instigate the fuckery because it's profitable, but singing Stop the Violence tunes when dudes in hospitals.
Join Google Fi Wireless and get $800 off Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with $300 off.
I pulled the plug because I seen where I was about to go. They wanted blood, they wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. Okay. What's interesting is, aren't you the same guy who had no issue doing a full-blown attack on Lil Pump?
And then interviewed him. Dropped 1985, and shortly after that, invited him in for an interview. And had him in that interview and was making a fool of him. Man.
Somebody who obviously cannot defend themselves in a way that would be, in a way that would look any type of way. Aren't you the same guy who had no issue with dissing Kanye West when he was strapped in a straitjacket and he couldn't do anything to respond? Aren't you the same guy who had no issues with having beef with Diggy Simmons? Aren't you the same guy who had no issues with having beef with Wale? Are y'all seeing a pattern here? There's a pattern of J. Cole punching down. But the second he has to punch up or straight, now they wanted to promote the fuckery because it's profitable. Okay, so what were you doing with Lil Pump? Were you promoting? Well, you was okay with the promoting that fuckery. You was okay with the promoting the fuckery. You dissed Kanye West when he was mentally ill at the height of his mental illness and couldn't get out the hospital.
Cook, and if you don't mention it, No Name. He had a back and forth with No Name too. A woman.
You had no issue with that then. But now you have this morale of, oh, we bigger than this. Hip hop isn't about beef, and it's about reaching your hearts, speaking your thoughts, pushing ourselves, reaching the charge, reaching your minds, keeping your hearts, creeping to find, emotions to touch, something inside to open you up, helping you cope with the rough times. Oh, okay. So what about the 176,000 verses of you begging somebody to try you?
Facts.
Oh.
Facts.
But that's not even what we about to expose. Let's talk about this line right here. Where is it at? Right here. Now that we know that there was no bots involved in Kendrick Lamar, right? This ages terribly. Since the age of 14, Jermaine's no king. If that means I gotta dig up dirt and pay the whole team on social of algorithm bot just to sway the whole thing on social media, competing for your favorable memes. To be considered best alive and rest, the way to both things. That I understand the thirst of being first that made them both swing. Great rhyming patterns, by the way. You see what I'm saying? Very good technical abilities. He rapped like he went to school. He rapped like he studied. Like, he read how to rhyme 101.
The nigga can rap. That's something that we can never take away from J. Cole. J. Cole can fucking rap. But just like Jalopy said, man, like, the vulnerability with no accountability is killing me. And that's what Port Antonio was. Like, the complete revisionist history of him basically being an innocent bystander caught up in something that was beneath him, with no accountability for his participation in it. And that's what pissed me off the first time I heard the song. I was like, hold on. Like, not only are you saying basically that you're above the beef, you're completely ignoring the part about you participating in it. And then shooting at both niggas. Like, they pride got the best of them. Like, you weren't on stage apologizing for participation. Man,
like that's it's like very NPC almost. But isn't it ironic that during the height of the bot allegations for Kendrick Lamar, right after the Super Bowl announcement for Kendrick Lamar, here comes verses about using bots and boom, boom. And who was the winner of the battle? Kendrick Lamar. So what you do is you see all the fans tarnishing your legacy because you apologized, including J. Cole fans. Okay? So what you do is, because you try to paint Drake and Kendrick Lamar as these money-hungry Mongols who just wanted to spin the narrative in order to make money and destroy the... No. You was the first person to drop a diss track, my guy.
Facts.
You was the first person to... I mean, we don't like that was a diss verse, don't get me wrong. But you was the first person to drop a diss track.
Yep.
So you can't do that. And with mentioning the bots, now that we know that was fake, why did you try to add on to that narrative?
I switched from due dates to due dates, and it made me go from weeks behind to weeks ahead of my deadlines. You see, I used to just bet.
Now, what J. Cole fans would do is say, he was talking about social media bots. He was talking about the bots on social media, not Kendrick Lamar's songs. That's what J. Cole does. He plays naive by being passive aggressive and throwing backhanded compliments, but still jabbing at you. And when he does this, it puts you in a position where if you respond to him, you look like you're being a bully.
Bruh, did I not say all of this shit, bruh? I knew I wasn't the only person perceiving it from this perspective, bruh. This nigga, J. Cole, really forced Kendrick's hand. Kendrick could not respond to a 7-minute drill. J. Cole got to get a free shot off. He got to steal on Kendrick and a group full of people. And before Kendrick realized who punched him and got a chance to respond, J. Cole giving him a hug and apologizing in front of a bunch of people. Hoping that because if Kendrick would have responded then, he could have doubled down on the, if you weren't dissing, we wouldn't be discussing them. He thirsty, this, that, and the third. He could have did all of that. He tried to gaslight. He tried to trick Kendrick out of his spot, it looked like. Because he could have went for the you're problematic angle. Kendrick just ain't go for it.
And that's the stance that J. Cole takes. He puts himself in a position where he's naive. He's this nice, humble guy. So if you do something about it, you're a bully. And what he attempted to do was put himself in a position where he seems to be the only person with integrity and respect by saying they just wanted blood and they wanted money.
Yet another fact. I'm glad we agree. Keep cooking.
Okay? Because who's they? People say they is the machine. They is the... No. They see this fire in my pen and think I'm dodging smoke. I wouldn't have lost a battle dog. I would have lost a bro. You wouldn't have lost a bro for saying... the dude had a bad albums. For saying he fell off. What are you talking about?
J. Cole's entire humble king persona is what's pissing me off. Especially when you review all of this shit in this short frame of time. That whole humble king, like that was his entire aim. Like I said at the beginning of the video, his entire aim was the reluctant king stepping on the throne that he didn't want, but the throne that needed him. And he will reluctantly step into that position and rule hip hop as a person who doesn't want the crown, but a person who wants to be the best hip-hop artist he possibly could be. Get the man.
What are you talking about? And the fact that you lied about these bots makes you look extremely jealous and suspect. The time of the song coming out makes you look extremely jealous and suspect. Okay? People say he was talking about Drake. But then he gets on his knees and begs Drake to not diss him. Because what y'all don't remember is Drake was gearing up to diss J. Cole. Y'all forgot about that, huh?
Yeah, he dissed J. Cole in multiple songs. He dissed J. Cole in push-ups and Family Matters. Yep, he sure did. And I think his get back would have been, all right, I lost to Kendrick. I'm going to shoot J. Cole down in the middle of the street. Or at least try to. That makes perfect sense to me. Mother, wait a second. I think I made the whole connection. Yeah, I think Drake had turned his eyes to J. Cole. Because from his perspective, that would have been the lick back he needed. But after J. Cole bowed out again, after he quit again and groveled at the feet of the person to not be brought into that and forced to engage, Drake ran out of options.
They was doing, Mal was on an interview talking about Drake feels some type of way or J. Cole backing out the battle. Drake was posting memes making fun of J. Cole. And that's the only person's name you mentioned directly? You never say Kendrick Lamar in this song. None of that. The only time you mention anything positive about Kendrick Lamar is when you say, my friends went to war, I walked away with all their blood on me. You didn't walk away with any blood on you, motherfucker. No blood was spilled. Like That was the only song that came out at that point. You walked away before any blood got spilled.
Facts. Another fact that people forget, it was no way that J. Cole was going to be able to forecast Meet the Grams, Family Matters, Hard Part 6, Not Like Us. There's no way. There's no way. The only song that you could forecast realistically would be Euphoria. And not necessarily what he said, but the type of track. It's the straight up and down rap track. And maybe push-ups. But every single thing after that, it's no way you predict that shit. It's no way. You got out before it was time to fight. You didn't see what the fight was going to lead to. You just didn't want to fight, period. Lack of commitment, lack of conviction. That's why you're in third, even still.
I'm feeling myself become irritated even talking about this, bro, because the fact that people are being manipulated into thinking that this dude has no idea what he's doing is the master manipulation at work. He knows exactly what he's doing. He always knows exactly what he's doing, and he apologizes for it and tries to take it back because he's trying to please everybody while throwing jabs and trying to cement his place in history. You can't cement your place in history by ducking smoke, crying, apologizing, and then trying to spin back like, what if I would have did something? What if I would have said something? No.
If it was me, I would have dunked that shit, ass nigga.
No. 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 Absolutely not. You tried to add on to these bot allegations while they were hot on Kendrick Lamar. There weren't no super bot allegations on Drake at this point in time. The hit piece was on Kendrick Lamar. And y'all gonna try to rewrite history to protect this dude. No.
If you don't know how to make chords, this is it.
You can drag one of these chord progressions in. Boom, just like that.
Okay? If they wanted clips to make their pockets grow, what the fuck was you doing? You didn't pull no blood because you seen where it was about to go. You pulled your plug because you was scared.
The other vaginal option.
And why are you assuming that somebody gonna end up in a fucking hospital? You ain't had no problem with, was somebody gonna end up in a hospital when you in Lil Pump? Was somebody gonna end up in a hospital when you diss Kanye? Was somebody gonna be in a hospital when you diss Diggy Simmons? What he's trying to do is create this lane for himself where people still put him up there. That's what this song was about. To rewrite history, make Drake happy, and try to diminish Kendrick Lamar without directly dissing Kendrick Lamar.
That's some weak ass shit. That's it really is. It's some weak ass shit because it's like it goes back to the old throwing rocks and hiding your hand shit. And also, it just shows that how deep that issue is that you have with Kendrick. And that shit is really disturbing when you look at it, because it's like, damn, like, I'd rather have an enemy than you as a friend, because this whole time you got this deep-rooted jealousy to where you salute me on this stage. So now, with the pattern that Jalopy's presenting and that I've presented in previous videos, I gotta look at you kind of on some snake shit, because I understand the pride of wanting to be number one. I understand the competition and jealousy that comes from that. But you speak like you're above these things. You speak like living in that is a misalignment of you, when your true purpose is to further cement your relationship with God and push peace and positivity in your music. But you've been on Demon Time in your feature verses for 5 years. A lot of those feature verses in 21, 22, and 23, you shooting at Kendrick. You do first-person shooter, you're shooting at him. You shoot at him again in 7 Minute Drill. You shoot at him again in Port Antonio. And in between that, you apologize. I can't trust a nigga like you, bro. Because at some point, you're going to snake me. And then you're going to posture it as if you were doing something noble in the act of snaking me. And that's what Port Antonio is. That's what First Person Shooter was. That's what pulling back 7 Minute Drill was. It's a weird type of friend to have, because he can't really be happy for you, i.e. didn't congratulate you on winning the Super Bowl. Because if you was really separated spiritually from the beef, you wouldn't feel away by telling somebody that you hold dear to your heart, somebody that's actually a friend of yours, congratulating him, especially in this era where nobody is reaching out publicly to show respect to Kendrick Lamar in the eve of him being the first hip-hop artist to headline the Super Bowl. It's bigger than just him stepping up. Like, he's about to do the first headline at Super Bowl as a rapper. This is huge. And if you really fuck with Kendrick Lamar, like you said on that stage, and like you was posturing in front of all of those fans, it shouldn't have been enough for you to congratulate him. Bad business.
Because he was jealous of what Kendrick Lamar was doing. Kendrick Lamar fully separated himself from Drake and J. Cole, and they can't live with that. And people can't imagine that, because J. Cole has this humble, I love everybody, I'm humble, I ride bikes. Okay? I can't respect this shit, bro. It's corny, bro. And you lied, and you knew what you was doing when you aided the bot narrative, because the bot narrative only got stronger after this song. He knew what he was doing. I don't give a what nobody talking about. He's a master manipulator at work here. Stop falling for it. He know what he doing, just like Drake know what he doing, just like Kendrick know what he doing. Don't this motherfucker got a degree in communications?
I just found that out tonight.
Man.
So that means he understands how to get points across. Yep. And they say he graduated summa cum laude. So he excels in getting points across, or should. That's what his degree says. So if we look at him as the same genius relatively who can put together the art that y'all consider genius level artwork, common sense shit like narrative crafting from a person who got a degree in communications shouldn't be too hard to find connection with, right? It shouldn't be too hard to be able to attach to the narrative that J. Cole understood, narrative crafting. It shouldn't be too hard to accept that. Yeah, Jalopy, I was trying to give him grace, bro. I was trying to give him grace. You're making it very difficult, my friend. You're making it very difficult. And yeah. I'ma still give him one more chance with the fall off. But that percentage of grace that I was giving him 40 minutes ago has probably cut in half from this argument that you presented. It just reminded me of all the shit that I previously thought, but putting it in sequential order, it's just like, damn, like, I want to give you grace because I want to be that type of person, but it's just like, bro, like, look at how far you've transgressed. And I can still extend you grace, but I can just choose to, like, get to the point where it's like, bro, do I even want to fuck with the fall off? You know? And I'm going to listen to it because I hadn't got to the point where I zeroed out on the grace. But the fall off will tell if I fuck with J. Cole going forward. And that's a fact. How he handles himself on the fall off will tell me whether or not I can fuck with him. If he's still bragging, if he's still popping shit, it shows me that he got on that stage and lied, because all of that is a part of creating the energy that led to him getting on stage and apologizing in the first place, if what he said is true. But hey, if he feel like he can get up there and still sell wolf tickets because that's what he feel like he got to do, he should have stood up there and fought when he had to.
To wrap this whole thing up, everything points to the fact that the goal was to rewrite history, to push J. Cole up, push Kendrick down, and keep Drake where he is in order for them to be the top two coming forward. Drake did it because J. Cole is not a threat to him.
Facts.
Okay?
Yep.
I just discovered One Submit, which is a platform that lets you submit your music to Spotify.
J. Cole did it because he wanted to be above Kendrick Lamar. And now, both of those ideas are gone. And without J. Cole's attachment to the big three, what does he have? As far as his stance and legacy. J. Cole ruined his legacy. He dropped Clouds and everybody was on his ass about apologizing. But this song right here, master manipulation. And it didn't work. The only people it worked for was his fan base. And also, some people will say, oh, Drake is the only one that's been accused of pushing bots on social media. Okay. But at that time, Kendrick Lamar was being accused of it. I understand the thirst of being first that made them both swing. Your thirst.
Yeah, they were definitely saying that Kendrick was like using bots. I remember, like, during the beef, they said he was using bots to, like, throttle engagement to Drake's disses on YouTube. I remember that. They said he was getting bots to, like, go and dislike the video, so it would hurt it in the algorithm. I remember that shit. That was even as it was happening. That was like a live time assessment. He ain't lying.
To be first too. Stop. You are not this. I am not of this earth. I have no what's it called? I'm not of this earth. I'm in the earth. Accept the fact that you are just as flawed as everybody else, and not just with the vulnerability, but with the accountability too. Not with just saying, being honest about how you feel, but taking accountability for your faults too. In these situations. That's all. I appreciate y'all for coming. I'm not finna edit this video or nothing. This is all coming straight from the heart. You see what I'm saying? And this is how I genuinely feel. I want you to see how y'all feel about it. But thank y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. And you know what? I think I got another video for J. Cole on the anniversary of the apology. Cause no. We on his ass.
Shout out to Jalopy Bungus. Fire video. Like I said, he kind of reignited that love-hate, man. I want to give him grace, but the grace got to subtract. Like when like as Rick Ross said, it all add up. It all add up. This disgusting behavior from J. Cole, to be honest. It's disgusting behavior, bro. Like, that nigga a hater, bro. And it's like, it's okay. Just admit it. Just stand on this shit. Like, whatever you do, whatever lane you take, just stand on it, bro. That's all niggas be really asking for real. Be honest. And give the people the opportunity to decide whether or not they fuck with you. You can't change as the wind blows. Oh, they not fucking with that, let me do this. They fucking with this, let me do that. Like, you can't do that. Because now people looking at you crazy. Because we don't know which one of you to believe because you conflicting with yourself in the song. And while that's understandable as a human being to be in conflict with yourself, you presenting this, I'm above the whole beef thing, so why would you be in conflict in the first place? You should have thought about that before you rapped that verse, J. Cole. You should have thought about it before you wrote it. Because that's equivalent to the Heart Part 6. We fed you the information. The people who fed you the information are all clowns. You're contradicting yourself in a way that makes your stance look weak. Because both things apply to the stance itself. And it's just rap. So you on some shit like, hey, like, the beef is bad. I wouldn't have lost the battle, though. What? Niggas thirsty. But I dropped 7-minute drill. And I ain't accountable for it. I'm not holding myself accountable for it. So I ain't thirsty, but they is. They did bots. But then I apologize to Drake. So if I'm accusing Drake of using bots, I'm not gonna apologize to Drake and beg for his forgiveness, basically, and then try to usher him back into the hip hop religion of it all. You ain't gonna do that for a nigga you shooting at. Just like Jalopy said, when you add it all up, it's a lot of exclusion. And the person or energy that's being excluded is all built into 5'5" nigga from Compton. You excluded him out of the Big Two talk. You decided not to publicly congratulate him, which is your prerogative, but you said on stage how much you fuck with him and you revere him and you love him. And then in Port Antonio, you called him a bro while shooting at him. Which is cool if you're going to stand on it. Because if you're going to stand on it and accept the fact that you battling with hypocrisy or whether or not you really fuck with this nigga because you feel jaded because he has success that you feel like you should have, and you don't like that when you feel like y'all make similar content and his gets more love than yours does critically, Grammys included, people would be like, okay, I understand that. But you acting like you above all of this shit and then express it in your music. We don't know how to read you, J. Cole. And now that's turning people off because when the pressure was applied, you didn't know how to handle it. You didn't know which stance to take or which road to take because you don't have enough conviction to take either. You didn't have the heart to stay out of it and accept the fact that your pride isn't worth shooting at somebody you love, so you shot at them. And once you felt like people weren't fucking with it and they weren't going to appreciate it the way that you thought they should, you back out before he get a chance to respond. That's weak. That's weak. And we would have let it go to a certain extent, but you came back and doubled back on the bullshit with Port Antonio and got the nerve to say you wouldn't have lost the battle, you would have lost the bro. Disgusting behavior, Jermaine. Disgusting behavior. And they told me in the live chat, they was like, bro, it's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. You better than me, Skip. You better than me, Skip. Yeah, man. Yeah. Y'all got it, bro. Excuse me. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. Like I say, I'm going to extend him. I'm like at 10% grace. The fall off says a lot for me, how he handles that situation. Because in essence, it's a reset. So how he handles that means a lot to me. Not enough to completely forget what he's done, but at least I could understand him. But a lot rides on that. He has to do some very specific things in that album beyond rap good to make it make sense for me. And number one on that is Be Honest. And I'll be able to tell. But yeah, man, shout out to Jalopy for the video. Dope video, fire video, great connections. And the fact that he can do this like on a stream of consciousness is dope as fuck. So shout out to him. I would love to have him on the channel in the future. So if that's a thing and y'all want that, let him know in the comment section. But thank y'all for tuning into another Decipher reaction. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we out of here. Peace.